Hey guys, happy Wednesday, good afternoon. Welcome to episode 2 of Patio Talk. Today we are going to talk about Monsteras and how they are holy and we are not. This is my Monstera Deliciosa. Her name is Lady Gaga and I love her. Actually, what we're going to do to her today is we are going to propagate her. So what that means, if you're not sure about what propagation is I'm going to take a cutting from her and I'm going to try and grow another plant from it, okay? So what you need to propagate, you need some garden shears, some alcohol. I recommend cleaning your shears, wiping them down well before you make a cut for propagation, just because if you see me looking off camera, it's because my little birdie friends have come to visit me right now, of course. Maybe you guys will get to see them in frame, I'm not sure. But we want to make sure and wipe off our scissors really well with some alcohol, just to make sure that there are not, we don't want to contaminate our fresh cutting, right? Okay, so. All right, I've got those all cleaned off. Now, what we're going to do, I will bring it a little bit closer so you can see it, but we want to make sure that we cut beneath the leaf node and beneath an aerial root, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and make my cut, and then I'm gonna bring it close for you guys to see. All right, so I've made my cut. When I say that you want to make sure you cut below a leaf node, I'm talking about this swollen part right here. You want to make sure you cut below there. And this is an aerial root. And I made sure to cut below the aerial root as well, okay? So we have that. Now that I've showed you guys what the cutting looks like, what you do next is very simple. We just take it and we put it in a jar of clean water. And we make sure and put it somewhere where it's gonna get lots of bright filtered light, like out here. In a couple of weeks, the roots will have grown enough to where I should be able to plant it in the ground. And then we'll have a whole new Monstera plant. Now, you'll notice that this leaf doesn't have any fenestrations or holes like this one does. And that's just because this particular leaf is not mature enough yet. But yeah, eventually most of them do get holes in them. Monsteras are a very holy plant, which brings me to our talk topic of this week, and that is, we are not too holy. An incident occurred this past weekend where a man was killed in his front yard by the CPSO. And I want to talk about that for a second. I don't want to talk about the incident, but what I want to talk about is the fact that a lot of us feel like that could never happen to us. Being in a misunderstanding with the police that goes wrong. Because we think we're too holy. We look at our personal record or our morals or the situations that we've been in up until this point and we think, no, not me. That couldn't happen to me. And I totally get that. But I just want you to think for a second about the fact that none of us really know what our worst hour is going to look like. You know, we just don't. And if in your worst hour, in the lowest point of your life, it was a situation where the police were called and they were expected to help you to calm you down or detain you, whatever the case. If you were sharing the worst moments of your life with the police, what kind of treatment would you consider acceptable for yourself? And what kind of outcome would you deem appropriate regardless of your personal state or some of the irrational actions that you might have taken? What kind of treatment What kind of actions would you consider to be acceptable and appropriate for the police to take when dealing with you? You know? And I think that that really puts a different perspective on it. And if you have trouble with that, think about it from the lens of your children. You know, I don't know what my children are going to be like when they're adults or when they're older. I don't know what their worst hours are going to be like. I don't know where life is going to take them, you know? So if you can't think about it for yourself, think about it for your children. And then let's even flip it to, say you have a child that is law enforcement. When they're going on these calls to deal with situations where people may be in distress and they're not really sure what they're expecting, what they're looking at, wouldn't you want your child who is law enforcement to be safe and prepared and capable to handle the situation so that there isn't a traumatic outcome that traumatizes a man's family and his children, the police force, and the community as well? I can't pretend to know what the answer to this is, but I do know that there has to be a better way. And I do know that we as a community can start taking more responsibility and paying attention more to how these things are handled, because we do share a responsibility. We do, for the safety of our neighbors, for the safety of our community. And if we just call the police every time something is wrong, we're really putting an unfair workload on them, number one. And number two, we are excusing ourselves of the responsibility, some of the responsibilities that we owe to our neighbors and to each other. In a time like this that is dark and full of sadness, there are some things that we can control, or at least that we can have some input in. And one of them is taking better care of our community. And I think that an open, honest, transparent discussion about what happened this past weekend really needs to occur. And I think for those of you who find yourself thinking it could never be you, maybe sit with that. And like I said, think about, in the worst hour of your life or in the worst hour of your child's life, what kind of outcome would you consider acceptable? You know? Listen, I hope that you are doing well this week. Things are a little bit tough. I'm not gonna lie. And if that's the way you're feeling, I want you to know that it's valid and it's okay. And I hope that tomorrow's better. It's been a little yuck this week, but still very nice outside right now. I hope you get to spend some time outside, maybe with some plants. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys soon.